Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by Maya Erskine, a three-time Emmy Award nominee who stars on the excellent Prime Video series Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Maya, I wanted to start kind of with the finale in terms of like we learned so much about Jane in the finale, about her like family and her self-awareness, about her sociopathic tendencies, let's say, and all these different things. And I feel like it feels really authentic to what we've learned about her, but without maybe you never tip your hand throughout the whole show. So I guess like how did you kind of build to those reveals to make them feel so authentic and embedded in the character that we've watched over the course of the season?
Oh, it's so nice. I mean, so I always knew what was going to be revealed at the end because when I first signed on, Francesca had sent both Donald and I kind of a list of things about our characters that we will be holding close to our chest and that we will like either slowly reveal through, getting closer with each other, more intimate, but really like the big truths that we have been hiding come out at the end. And so I just being able to know all that, I think the goal with playing Jane was always just to be able to have all of that inside and like have a shield, have a shell a bit to like contain it. And so that was, it was a challenge for me because I always want to express everything I know at all times. Like that's just my nature. And so to be able to have all of this like sort of inside and not just share it when I think it could actually make the situation easier, make it go better, she doesn't do it out of fear and for many other self-protective reasons. But so I knew it all before.
Right. And then like I just think that's really the performance is so great then because you really never it's like I don't know, I just found it like really you feel like it feels very authentic, I guess. I think you like do a great
Oh,
job of
thank
like
you.
holding it together in that way. I love that about the character. The other thing I love about the show is obviously like it's linear, but like you're skipping through time, right? Like obviously like through stages of their relationship. And that is
Yeah.
another thing I find really great is how you're always subtly, and I'm sure this is like in the writing too, but I think the performance, you're always subtly different as we're moving through the season, like as we're kind of
Mhm.
landing in each of the missions or in the episodes and like the way I just found all that. So like as an actor, are you like trying to think about like do you think about like how she's been like every day, or are you just kind of like gonna attack like the situation that you're in, I guess, if that makes sense a little?
Yeah, it does. No, it does. I mean, what's so fun about a TV show, I guess, more than, maybe a movie is like there is room to see so many different sides of a character because you have more hours to explore. So it's not just, these big moments in a relationship. It's also like the small everyday in between moments. So you get to see a fuller picture of a human that way, I think. So in terms of like I feel like you touched on two things, but one thing of like each episode feeling like its own world, I think that was intentional and also happened as we were filming, that like each episode feels almost like its own tone, or like a couple episodes at a time feel like its own tone, its own world, as they evolve their relationship, as they become better spies depending where they are. Like, when they're in Como, it's like a whole, it like feels like Talented Mr. Ripley a little bit, and like, it's romantic, and I think that brings out that side of Jane and John. Like they're able to sort of lean into that because they're in this world. And it lends itself well, I think, to like the evolution of their relationship. I think there were points like the third episode, from the second to the third, it jumps. Like you definitely see that they're actually quite intimate with each other.
Mhm.
But what I like is that you're seeing the first time a couple's on a on a vacation together. So what does that do to each other? How does that reveal your insecurities? And I love that we get to see Jane's insecurities really come out, and how her, patterns get revealed of like how she runs away in a relationship, or what she does when she's really scared of feeling something for someone. So yeah, I hope I answered
No,
that.
that's great. I love that. I think that's really great. Did you have like a lot, like obviously like how much collaboration did you have with Donald and Francesca and stuff in like terms of like making sure these like things about Jane, like what, like I guess they were like making sure these things were coming out, I guess, in terms of
Yeah,
like
I mean,
going on.
they were so open to collaboration. They were so open with me of like, you know, however much you want to be involved, you can be involved. So they were like really generous with that. I just had always said from the beginning, like, I just don't want to go home writing scripts. Like that's all, like I can't take on both. I can only for this project, I was like, I just want to focus on playing her. And but with that said, there's, you know, I think anytime an actor is playing a character, there should be like collaboration between all parts, because things change when you get on set and sometimes the scene doesn't feel right. Or and in terms of like what we brought to Jane, they asked me to send like a packet of um kind of vulnerable, embarrassing stories or things about myself or me in relationships, any tidbits that could maybe like infuse Jane with some of myself. But it you know, she was already so developed that like it wasn't that necessary. I think some of it made its way into it, but really not a lot. But yeah, they're just like huge collaborators, so they were open with every day. It was a constant conversation.
That's really cool. And the other thing, I mean, obviously, the other component of the show is it's incredibly physical, right? And especially in the finale, I the fight scene between Jane and John is
Yeah.
like really intense and also like perfectly messy, right? Like it's like you guys are like, and like the exhaustion. I just found all of it like
Yeah.
the way it cascades and like you could feel their exhaustion. I would imagine that was like an incredible challenge, certainly, like to prepare for that and choreograph. But like, what was it like? I guess to do
I
that.
mean, that was so actually fun for me. Like, I loved that. I loved learning choreography. I loved when it was hand-to-hand combat, because I know that there was one Donald wanted to do like a oneer for the first part of this fight sequence where we're like in the library and like throwing books at each other and running up. And so when there's like a challenge presented of like, we're getting this in one, we can't cut away. So like if you fuck up, we have to do it again. There's something really exhilarating about that. And there's so much adrenaline that it's very exciting to shoot. I was really sick when we were filming that, and it made me almost convinced of like, oh, because I always rest when I have a cold, but my cold was cured in like 2 days because I was doing so much cardiovascular activity that I'm not used to. Something about it. But we also had like amazing stunt coordinators, and they jumped in whenever we couldn't do anything, and they just choreographed such a great fight. And I love that you picked up on the like exhaustion, because you don't really see that all the time in movie. It's like you watch these long fight sequences and you're like, are they superhuman? Like, how are they still going? Like, I know you can have endurance, but this is, you know, so it was nice to see like them get more tired. And that was really important to Donald to like keep seeing the like the fall of us as we kept fighting.
I love that. And you, like you said, like he directed that finale also. Was it like,
Yeah.
I was like having worked, like, I guess, did that not necessarily change it? Like, but what was it like having, you were acting with him obviously in that capacity, but then also to have him directed the finale? Did that like, what was that like, I guess, or how did that like, did that change, did not change anything in like a bad way, but I guess how did that like, had you
No,
like,
it,
yeah.
it was really fun being directed by him, because he's so clear on some, especially like some shots. He'll be like, I see this exactly this way, and like he wants it done in a very specific way. And it just, I felt really comfortable with that. Like that was fun for me to like hit those notes for him, or like try to. So in terms of when we were like acting together, I mean, you have like the whole team around. So the only times where it was like I wanted to make sure I really had him with me were when we were doing the truth serum scene and like the final scene, so that we were, and he was able to do both so seamlessly. I cannot do that at
So
all.
the truth serum scene is amazing. First of all your line readings that are the best, and you have the one, you know, what that does to a woman, it impacts her. I just love that. I don't know how you came up with the syntax of impacts there. It's just so
I don't
good.
know. I mean, I don't, we did it so many times, like it feels like a blur, because it was like a 15-page scene. So it's kind of this like experimental, like art, you know, weird draw that I don't know how they like finally figured out how to edit it, because I think it could have gone like a bunch of different ways, but I feel like they found the best version of it, because it could have been a mess, you know, of just like us being like the whole time. But I think I just tried to think of what it would be like to be on a specific drug, or like a memory of a drunk that I've done. Like that's what I called on.
It's really great. I guess I like, and I just love. I was gonna ask you like, what were you thinking of to do that? I was also like, I don't even know why I thought of like Ghostbusters for some reason, like Rick Moranis in Ghostbusters. I was just like, what? It's just so strange the way you guys are, and it's really great though, and I love that you're able to do that, and also get like obviously like they're so honest with each other for the first time. It just is like a real
Yeah.
breakthrough for them. I think is like really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It almost becomes like this very romantic scene. Like it's sort of this weird way of them of it being romantic and even sexy at one point. Like it's weird. But it feels like it's so John and Jane. Like this is the way that they would have this kind of breakthrough moment is through truth serum.
And then
Which
like,
is
how did you
fucked up,
imagine
but yeah.
like for her, I guess for Jane too, like, so you have that breakthrough moment for both of them, and then I feel like she does obviously have like, I mean, they both do, but I think she has like a catharsis by the time you're getting to the very end, right? And like, I
Yeah.
guess a little bit like, so her whole perspective has somewhat changed in a very short amount of time, and then like, so I guess for you, like, how did you think about how she was like processing that like catharsis while also trying to like figure out how to survive this situation that they're in, I
You
guess.
mean in the final
Yeah,
scene?
like
Like,
because I feel like you're
yeah,
like coming from that, like obviously there's like stuff in between, but when you go from
right.
like the truth serum to like the final scene, so much of her has
Yeah.
changed, I feel like, or her thoughts have
Yeah,
changed,
yeah.
right?
I think like it's almost like all of her barriers have been like completely shattered and she's just fully open and ready to like actually be vulnerable with this person and really like be with this person. I think in that moment she's really ready to save him. Like I think
Mhm.
throughout like the series there have been these moments of her like saving him in situations where he messed up or whatever, and it came more out of ego or out of pride or out of like, I'm doing better in this job. I'm doing better in this relationship. I always have to pick you up. Like it came from this negative place where at the end it feels like, oh, now I really am invested and want to have a life with you. And that may include kids too. I want to do this. So it's like I mean, it just reminds me of like the ending of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Like just it's just a beautiful ending. And we don't know which way it goes. I can't say. But yeah, I felt like it was a catharsis for me too, just Maya being able to play her to be able to like release all of that because it was like holding in so much for so long, for many months.
Yeah,
Like,
it's fantastic. The ending is so good. I know you can't say anything. I will just say, I just want to ask you one thing about the second season because you were like in Vanity Fair, you were like, I know things, and I guess I just was like broadly, I guess have anything those things that you know and
yes.
anything changed since it was renewed for a second season.
What did I say?
You were
What
like,
did I
you
say,
were like
Joey?
kind of like the same thing. You were like, I know
Yeah,
things about what would happen after the
right.
finale, but I don't know, like,
I
what if
do. It
anything
could
changed?
change. I do
Okay.
know some things. I mean, I just have to keep saying the same thing where it's
Yes.
like, because we don't want to, the whole point of having a cliffhanger is like, so you have the fun of it of when you
Yes.
watch the next season. And because it's now officially renewed, I can say that the plans for the second season are going to be, I think it's going to be even better than the first season. And it's not, I can't say whether that includes us or not, but I do think it's going to be a really, if they commit and go that way, it could be really exciting.
I think that's great. I like this show we were saying, but it's a fantastic show. I guess was it like it is a big swing, obviously, like it's a known
Yeah.
IP, right? Or whatever. But I mean, you don't have to I didn't think the movie's not one of my faves, let's say, but I thought the show is like fantastic. And I guess like was it like heartening to see people respond to the show so well, I guess, and like get like that kind of response where they're so
Yeah.
excited for a second season.
Yeah, it's always nice. I mean, it's just, but for me, it's like always so hard to tell. I'm like, do people like I can't ever really gauge because there's just so much stuff out there that I'm like, are people seeing it? Do people like it? Do people, but yes, when I've like heard of the people who like actually really like it and especially from people who probably were like not giving it the time of day because it was a remake, like I like seeing that change over in people, or I like seeing people appreciate for it for what it is because I don't like watching things I'm a part of, but because I am such big fans of Donald and Fran and Hero, I'm like I owe it to them to watch this show and like put my ego aside. and I loved it. Like I just loved what they created. And so I just care about that, that I'm like, we're proud of it. And so yeah, it's great.
Yeah, you should be proud of it. It is a great show. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you can stream all the episodes on Amazon Prime. Thank you so much, Maya Erskine, for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.